And partake in the stream if you like. I'm just, I don't really have much time for that. Oh no, I've got to fix all sorts of stuff. There's always like things to be fixed. So the thing here is CDC. There's a CDC 6500 mainframe from 1967. And yeah, it's now a real. This is testing 1 2 3. We're online. It's now. They restored it. They put a SSH interface on the front of it, so you can actually connect to it, interact with it across the internet. And it's a mainframe from 1967. So yeah, this is my Twitch setup. So let me just do the intros here. This is a 1968 or something, maybe late 60s teletype computer terminal connected to a mainframe in the back of the pedestal, which is a Raspberry Pi style thing running Linux. And we're just going to keep fixing it until it does something useful. So we're here at the Makerspace. And there's a lot of people here, which never happens, so it's really awesome. There's a whole crowd. Yeah, I just turned on the stream. So I was going to try connect to the CDC 6500 mainframe, which dates from 1967, and they have it up and running in Seattle at the Living Computer Museum. And of course, when I try to connect to it, the thing that I'm trying to connect to it doesn't work, and so it says bash user bin expect bad interpreter, because I haven't installed expect on this machine. How well do you know Unix? Are you like a
Yeah. I prefer like Raspberry Pi.
Yeah.
In college, I would always laugh because like whenever like other students in the class would have to download something from the terminal, like my professor would have me go and do it, and then I'd be like sitting there, like, why am I installing
the setup? Yeah, absolutely.
No one else is interested in it, so.
Yeah, and I kind of learned Unix by accident. Instead of deliberately, because I was a Windows person forever, and using PCs, like when I was working with stuff, it was Windows and OS2 for a little bit, and then I ended up in a job where I was working at Microsoft, and it's like everything in the world is running Linux. Why do I not know anything about Unix? I better learn. Yeah. And I had a Squeezebox audio system, and the remote control that they came out with was like, this is like 10 years ago, whatever. They came out with a remote control that ran Linux and was on the Wi-Fi, and you could SSH into the remote control for the stereo. Like, what am I doing running Windows when these things are taking over the world?
Yeah, I've never, like, that's why I love the Raspberry Pi so much, because I never got, like, young to have ever experienced, like, terminal line computing, but, like, that's, like, my favorite. So.
Yeah, and it's, you can do anything with them. It's like they're so wicked powerful.
Like, the thing about fixed versus, like, the teletype is, like that concept blows my mind, and I love, like, computing for that reason, but...
Right.
This is, so right now, is this just like a...
So this is just a terminal. So it's the keyboard is a parallel keyboard. You press a key down and it connects, it's 7 bits, but it connects the wires. And then there's a mechanical distributor that spins around. When you press the key, it unlocks the clutch that spins the distributor that reads the 8 bits in turn and sends them down a wire to turn it into serial. Okay. Right? And so that's done That's the whole serial connection. It's mechanical. Right? But so that is on a current loop. There's a constant current, 20 milliamp current through the loop, and the distributor makes and breaks the connection, right? And then in the back of the pedestal, there's a current loop to USB, a little piece of electronics and a teensy micro, and then the Google Edge
Oh,
TPU
so this
thing.
is running alongside it.
So yeah, it's in the back. It's down the back of the pedestal. And then a Raspberry Pi style Unix machine. Yeah.
So, yeah, it's like I did I took a class on early digital text-based art
Yeah,
and
yeah.
space writing and stuff, and
Yep. So I have to connect to this, and so I recently moved the host, right? So the machine I had it before was actually a Raspberry Pi, and it was like a Gen 1 Raspberry Pi. So it was old enough that I was getting really frustrated at how slow it actually is, especially for the ASCII art, because the ASCII art computing, to figure out what's the best character pair to match with a pixel on a big size image was taking like a half hour to prep a page for the ASCII art. So I wanted to upgrade it. And then Google came out with this thing that's it's a machine learning coprocessor on top of a Raspberry Pi style machine. Edge TPU.
I was watching your Twitch channel.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
I think
yeah.
you meant the
Yeah.
Coral.
That's right. That's right.
And
It's
I
the Coral.
went for an hour and just was looking it up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And it runs TensorFlow or TensorFlow Lite models, and you can train small models on it, or you can have like a trained model that you're just going to run, and it'll do video things like face detection at 100 frames a second. I mean, it's wicked fast at some of these simple models.
Yeah, that's my next thing I want to play.
Yeah. It's like how.
The Jensen,
the NVIDIA one.
Yeah.
NVIDIA equivalent came out. Yeah.
But yeah.
And they seem to be back ordered. I looked on
they
Mouser
are.
and they seem to not be shipping just yet.
I just found out about it this morning and I was like, what is that? That might be because I want
And it has a
to use
GPU.
TensorFlow and
Yeah.
PyTorch.
Yeah.
Library.
And I've done bits of NumPy. Like the ASCII art thing uses scikit-image and NumPy, but it doesn't do any machine learning. It's just it uses, because NumPy is amazing, right? Have you done NumPy stuff? Yeah.
Some text-based stuff.
I mean, just you spin up an array, and it does arrays at machine speed. There's no overhead to index into the array. You can do projections of the array at machine speed. That you can say, okay, here's my 5-dimensional array. Let me get this projection of subset of it, and there's no indexing overhead. And then you can do like operations on them and say this one times 5, and it just does it, right? Half a line of Python, and it'll do massive computations on arrays. So it's great for images. But I haven't taken it any further than just playing with images. And the machine learning stuff is like, okay, a bunch of like models to learn.
Yeah, I have a professor who wants to do basically like the generative adversarial network with like some images. And he's like, can you do that? And I'm like, he's like, can you do that with your Raspberry Pi and Python? I'm like,
yeah, but on the NVIDIA machine, absolutely you could run.
That's what I was thinking.
Or on the Pi you could, but it would just take forever. Yeah. But then for a text-only terminal, it's like, what's the application for machine learning on a text-only terminal? I think it's going to be conversational UI. Yeah. Right, at some point, let's do some of those. Yeah. I mean, I've got Zork running on this, but
we should. I would love to if I would love to teach a class on interactive fiction.
Oh my God, yeah.
And like have it
totally.
running, because I show in all my classes I always show.
Yeah.
Well, actually, my favorite text adventure as a teaching lesson is Jaws, the text adventure.
Oh wow! I haven't
And
seen it.
it's like a Microsoft, and
okay.
It's like it's so funny because it's Jaws, but from the perspective of the shark.
Nice.
So like you're swimming left, swimming right, swimming north, swimming north, south, east, and west. So it introduces that idea.
That's awesome.
But it's like, it's just like so funny.
I've never come across it. That's fantastic. I spent a long time when I was, not a long time, I spent many hours on Lambda Moo.
What is it?
Lambda Moo, which is like deeply interactive, kind of constructed worlds, adventure place. But Lambda Moo is kind of, it's one of these constructivist kind of no-goal things. It's just a social place, but it's ridiculously programmable, and very, very, very kind of interactive in really subtle ways. Really amazing environment. And yeah, so I've spent time on Lambda Moo, but not much.
Running? Like, is that
Lambda Moo is actually it's running on a server that it was always been on there. I can show you on here if you like.
Yeah, I feel like I've read about it in.
Yeah, it was famous actually. There was a really famous. It was the location of the first really obviously bad kind of sock puppetry abuse story.
Exactly
and Julian Dibdale wrote a story called "A Rape in Cyberspace" that was a story about what happened at Lambda Moo.
Yeah,
and that happened before my time there. And you can totally, it's like that. I think was the first of these things that says, yeah, this is a real place. Mm-hmm. This is not some like toy game, right? This is real life too, and that it deliberately gives you ways to construct identity and to play with identity, and that's really easy to abuse, and that the abuse is real, right? That it's.
Well, yeah.
It's
everything on. Oh, that's the argument.
But in the early '90s, that was a whole new concept, right? And now, of course, like people understand that.
Yeah, I feel like my professors were, on the peripheral. Things like playing movies and things, and then. But we would always. My best friend. Have you ever seen that We Live Online documentary?
No.
It shows that. It's just like. He was one of the first guys who would live stream his whole life. Like,
sure.
Yeah. My best friend is so like enamored by that idea, but that idea of like things that happen online are real. And my professor would be like, you can't like experience something by going on Google Maps. And I'm like, I am from a generation where like that is kind of like how we experience everything. Like everything is real.
Yeah. But also not even just that we like I hold this device in my hand and it's connecting me to the rest of stuff. That even with this technology, the way that I behave and that I project an image of myself through the communication channel is exactly that thing has always happened. It's happened with paper writing, it happened with the first generation terminals here, and it still happens with the phone, right? That who you see me as is mediated, and who I want to appear as, and the boundaries that I want to have with myself and the world are always mediated, and they're too, like, you step through the boundary, right? I'll find, when I was in high school, in the early 80s, playing on one of these, you would be having conversations, and the technology that you're having the conversation through would completely go away. Like, you forget that you're not in this place that you think you were in, that you're actually typing on this clunky thing, and then something brings you back to the physical thing, right? It's like, that's just the way that we're wired, isn't it?
Yeah, it's amazing.
And so that's my fascination.
I'm actually, I have a coworker who's getting me a typewriter.
Oh yeah.
So I want to have it in the space because I'm like, it's a perfect intermediary between like Mitch's printing shop and then
absolutely. Yeah, and that's if you want to do an IF workshop, then we can do it on this. I have another one which is 10 years newer, but is still print.
So could you write the Python program and then actually like do it like in the REPL like you would?
Oh, totally. Okay. Yeah. I mean, this is just Bash script. It's just a terminal.
Well, even I've never done that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm like.
Yeah. So here, what I've got on the stream is I've got a camera pointed at this. I want to run CDC, which is an expect script to log me on to the CDC machine. I don't have expect installed. So let's have a look at that script. So I've got to fix this expect script to actually log on. But I'm going to do most of my surgery by SSHing in from here because it's easier and it's just faster. So it says like SSH into the CDC, and then it's expecting to see my a prompt that says user number. I think this is wrong actually. I want to wait for XXX instead, because I mean it's just putting in a username and password. I could just like type them. But I don't have expect installed on here because it's this Google thing. So sudo apt get install expect.
So, and then it's also actively punching what you're doing.
Oh, okay. So the keyboard goes out through the transmit channel. Oh no, totally. We're online, so keep your nasty words out of the kids' channel. Just as a heads up. The keyboard goes to the USB, and then the USB also goes to print, and it's just bidirectional, right? It's transmit and receive. Okay. The tape punch is mechanically connected to the printer. So if I do something here, like ls is busted for some reason, I want to see how it is busted, so I'm going to print by turning the punch on, and it's punching the binary for the ASCII characters, right? And so punching tape is kind of cool. You see my listing? It's a bit busted. For some reason, it's doing carriage returns, and I don't know why. So at some point, I'm going to go debug that. But then these are from this direction going here. ASCII. This is a carriage return, then two nulls, and then a new line, and then another null, and then probably spaces, two spaces, and then a bunch of letters. Okay. Right? It's just ASCII. Right? So that's tape, and of course, tape itself used to be a storage mechanism. Yeah. It's like that's what you use to back up.
Yeah. So then could you put this back in? And
yeah. Then there's a reader at the front here, and you just put the tape in the reader and hit start, and it reads it. And the reader is connected basically in parallel with the keyboard. And so before
you would have had the Raspberry Pi running everything, like you would actually rely on this stuff.
Well, so these would have been connected to a machine in another room.
Okay.
And maybe across campus.
Yeah.
So if you want to back stuff up, you don't want to walk to the computer center and ask them to put stuff on like storage. Uh-huh. You want to keep a local copy and just say, let's keep a copy of my printout, put it on tape, carry it around on tape. But the information density is 10 bytes per inch, or 120 bytes per foot, or 1K is like 10 feet, or a whole roll of it would maybe fit a couple megabytes. So it's weird how like the information density is stretched for modern. Like I just went into Walgreens and bought myself an SD card for $10, and it's a micro SD, and it's 16 gigabytes, and it's like I would take 1,000 rolls of paper tape to store 16 gigs. So it's insane.
So you had a part that I was printing, and the first print looked like shit.
Oh, are you printing it?
Yeah.
Hey, awesome, thank you.
It looked like crap, and then so I checked a couple of things and tried it again, and it still looked like crap. And I just checked the bed to make sure that it was true, and it was completely out. So the problem that you had with the other thing was like
See, because I did spend I was like trying so hard to like look at the shadows of the extruder and like get the and then I was like, yes, that is the problem. And then also I was like, I need to write like little notes to myself on all the screws because I can't remember.
Oh Jesus!
I was like, is there like a?
Okay.
I think that's like the ready type. I don't know.
But it was printing your prosthetics the other day.
What's that?
Your prosthetics the other day were printing okay, right?
Yeah, they were printing okay. It's just like you constantly have.
Oh, okay. It just goes out of true.
Yeah. It's a really kludgy.
Yeah.
You know, it's a $200 printer, but it's like it's the bed gets out of alignment really quickly. And basically every time I've had a bad print,
it's because of that.
It's been because of that.
Let me put these on the screen. So this is the piece that I'm printing. It's a it's a cam that drives the pen carousel for this pen plotter, and
find an STL file or just make it.
I found it. Yeah. Somebody has produced one and put it up on one of these sites, and this like the plastic has completely decomposed.
Oh wow.
It's just there's no strength in it. So let's try connect onto the CDC. I think, well, let's. I just fixed this expect script, but I think we should just do it directly. CDC 6500. Oh, so one of the other things about this keyboard is this is ASCII 1963. It doesn't have curly braces.
When are those introduced?
65 or 67 or whatever. It doesn't have an underscore. It has a back arrow instead where the underscore character would be. It doesn't have the little back tick. It doesn't have the pipe. So on the command line, you can't do like cat something pipe grep whatever. You just can't do it because the pipe the character doesn't exist. It's uppercase only.
So would you have? Is there ones that are made with those things, or is that just not on the
So
teletype?
on the teletype, this machine became super popular because of the price point in the kind of mid 60s. There was nothing else that was as cost effective, and then Digital started actually shipping their minis with one of these as the system console. It's like they became kind of the de facto standard, and that's almost one of the reasons that ASCII became kind of at the same time, like this was the first real ASCII terminal. And so a lot of stuff stabilized around kind of uppercase only ASCII 63, but its limitations are pretty obvious. And so the next gen of machines, which were like the first video terminals, like the VT52 and the Deckmans, and then the last generation of print terminals, like the Digital, this one here is a Deck Rider 4 from like the 1978-80 kind of era. Those all do accents and uppercase and lowercase and like everything you'd expect. But the print technology for those is dot matrix, whereas this is like an old-fashioned typewriter kind of print head. So yeah, it's like it's early enough that a lot of the stuff that it assumes is completely obsolete. But it's also the machine that they wrote Unix on. Like Ken Thompson and Dennis Ritchie used one of these to write Unix, and so a lot of Unixisms like assume that there's a terminal just like this because that's what they had, which is like 50-year-old weirdness.
What would be a good example of one of those Unixisms that
Oh yeah.
so obviously tied to
Let me see if I can make a connection here. So an example, in Unix, all your terminal devices are called /dev/tty something, and that's because TTY is the teletype. Right? So all of the teletype devices, and even the fact that there is a thing called a teletype device, which is like a keyboard input and a print output, right? That's baked deeply into what an interactive device is in Unix, because that's what they had. And there are other devices like light pens and plotters and 3D printers and all the other range of devices, right? But mostly they all layer on top of the serial teletype terminal kind of protocol and just add layers of crap above it, because at the base it's like, this is the simplest I/O that you've got. And
great talk about like comparing tweets all the way back to the IBM punch card and comparing like the length of tweets and why they're that way to SMS messaging, and then back to how this is all related to just that idea of the line.
Right, absolutely. This is 72 characters. Punch cards were 80, so that's why the early screens were 80. But this is 72, and I think this is 72 because of telex and telegraph stuff before it. So let's connect to, this is a 1967 mainframe at the Living Computer Museum.
So you just give out, they share the SSH.
Yeah. Let's see if we can log in. Yeah, so you have to write off, but so right now we're just connecting to the, oh please, God, yeah. So there's a camera here and a camera here, and it's on the Twitch stream right now, but take photos, absolutely. And the whole machinery is amazing. Like, you can see there the dash pot, right? So when you hit carriage return, it returns the carriage. Right? It literally there's a latch here, and it unlocks the latch, and the spring pulls it back, and it's on a spring. And so to damp it when it hits the edge of the thing here, there's a little dash that's got a rubber thing on it, and there's a pot that it lands in, and the air in the pot damps the carriage when it hits there, so that it doesn't like blow apart the edge of the machine when it lands. And it's very just mechanical. So it says, down, had bad transistor in core module which has been fixed. Time to back up around 11 PST. All right, the machine's down. That's the problem with dealing with Wicked Ancient.
But you did connect then.
Yeah, it connected, but it connected to basically their terminal interface gateway. Yeah. I don't even know how to get out of here. Control C doesn't seem to work. So I can go kill that from the other terminal. PS, grep, telnet. Nope. No. What's that? What's that machine doing? It's doing SSH. Huh. So I can go kill 6434. There we are. Back at the prompt. So okay, we can't connect to the CDC, but it's the oldest running machine that I know of. And I mean, it blows my mind that something that's 50 years old, that they'll just give you a login. It's like, it's amazing.
Are there many things like machines like that, or?
There's a bunch. So Living Computer Museum runs several of them. If I go, actually, where am I? In the ASR33 directory, in bin, _**. I've built these little expect scripts for a few of them, and most of them are simulators though. At the Living Computer Museum, they've got some real machines that they keep running, and they have a TOPS 10 machine, an old digital Mini. I don't have access on it. The other ones that I have access to that are not there though, there's a bulletin board that on Reddit, Retro Battle Stations Reddit, the guy that moderates that, Foztex, runs a BBS that he built his own software, and it's like it's the Retro Battle Stations BBS. So people log in from there with all sorts of machines, with Ataris and Tandys and like all these old games machines.
That's printing, so I'm just going to leave. And so if you just shut down the printer when it's done.
Awesome,
Should be
thank
done
you.
in about an hour.
Yeah, fantastic, thank you. Yeah, there's a HP 2000, which is again mid-60s, but that's an emulator. It's not real hardware. It's not original hardware. But the HP 2000. So one of the interesting things about like you expect Unix machines to be a particular way. It's like you log in, you get a shell. The shell, you can control what it is, right? The shell's bash, but you could switch in a different shell. And there's a shell that interacts with you, that figures out how to find other apps to run by the path, and that when a process runs, then, I mean, all of the stuff, everything about how the processes fit together is all part of the OS, right? But some of these old OSs are just weird and different. Like, so the CDC has this OS where basically you go into different zones of it to do different things, and there's a zone for Fortran, there's a zone for BASIC, there's a zone for talking to other people, and I've not spent enough time there to really figure out what that's like. The HP 2000 runs BASIC. It's a mini computer where natively it's BASIC. It's like there is no OS underneath it, so it's kind of like a Tandy or something, or a Commodore PET or one of these things where like you turn it on and you've got BASIC, right? And
I wrote a TI 64
Yeah.
computer with
yeah,
no backspace button. It was insane.
yeah, and so this is like the 1965 version of those kind of 80s kind of games machine, home machine kind of things, and probably about as powerful. And then there's a Prime, and the Prime, another New England. Let's see if I can connect to the Prime. Again, this is an emulator, and then there's VMS. Oh, I'm connected. Seriously? That was quick. Are you serious? Wow, the Prime is up, but it took no time at all to connect. I expected like a long... I think because my expect script hides all the login. So the Prime runs an operating system called Primos, and the prompt is usually OK, comma, but if you've had an error, then the prompt is ER exclamation mark, and the file system, like you expect a file system to be hierarchical, right? There's a root, and beneath the root there's a set of top level directories, and maybe one of them is called home, and beneath that it's like that's all Unix. It doesn't have to be that way. And DOS is a little bit different than that, but it's almost kind of like a cheap clone, right? Primos is completely different. I can't remember how you CD into a subdirectory, but it's not like CD. There is a thing that's almost like a subdirectory. That kind of concept does exist, but it's called something completely different and it behaves different. And yeah, so let's look at some of the commands and we'll see. I think this help might take forever. I don't remember much about the Prime, but when I was in high school, the one of these that I used was connected to a Prime machine. I want to have a physical Prime machine at some point, because they're a New England thing, right? Prime. So there's this East Coast, West Coast thing right here as well, which is kind of funny. Like this is a AT&T machine, which I guess is East Coast because Bell Labs was New Jersey, right? But it was used for Unix, so this is an everywhere machine. Digital Equipment were based in Medford, or where? Where were they? Maynard.
I don't know. They had locations around.
Yeah, but they were like a major force around this area, and they're like the East Coast mini computer manufacturer, and then Wang and everybody else, and then the West Coast, like Sun is a West Coast thing. HP is a West Coast thing. So I'm really glad actually that this plotter, this is a rebadged HP plotter, but it's badged digital. It's the East Coast rebadged HP plotter. So I wonder, how can I can hit return and it's going to give me more, but I don't know how to get out. I don't know how to it's like Control C is not doing the right thing here. Maybe escape. I don't know. We should be able to write like basic programs on this thing. And of course, when you're editing, you don't have a graphical editor anymore. You can't do cursor up, right? There's no cursor keys on this, because what would they do? So, have you used the Unix editor, ed, the ed editor? It's like, it predates like Vim, and it's a line editor, and it's really actually pretty useful. Have you used sed? Have you used sed? Sed is like a substitute. Sed is like, it's a you use it a lot for search and replays, and sed is like the standalone version of the ed editor. But editing files with the ed editor is very laborious, and actually on this it's broken right now because I've got there's some weird, it does some weird control character stuff, and I'm only at the C's. This might take a while.
This is really cool.
Yeah, it's really
Thanks for letting me look.
Yeah, you're welcome to come hang out and use it if you want to. I'll put up a little cheat sheet at some point.
So cool.
So yeah, it's
Is this like you said you had one at your house in high school?
no. At high school there was a little back room upstairs that only the
That
math.
everyone talks about. Like,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
used to go to a room and log in.
That's right. That's right.
It's different.
Yeah, there was no computer room because there was no other computers.
Yeah.
They actually had another computer in that room that was donated from an insurance company, and nobody knew how to use it at all. But it had like big floppies this big, and but so yeah, they had one of these, and it was connected on a fixed lease line. It was connected on a lease line to a computer at the university that was 20 miles away. And I think just on the current loop. I don't think there was any extra stuff. It was like literally that this was physically connected to the line. You didn't have to dial up or anything. You just turn it on and it was logged in.
So something like, so I always teach, you know, Christopher Strachey's Love Letters.
No.
He like had a computer at the Manchester University, the Mark
Uh-huh.
or whatever. Is that, would this connect to that? Is
Yeah.
That how it, okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I've always
Yeah.
tried to imagine, so he basically wrote a program that would, the Manchester University computer would write out these love letters.
Yeah.
And people would, the idea was like, you'd walk up to the terminal and it'd
Yeah.
be a love letter written from
Yeah.
signed the Manchester University computer, and people
Sure.
are like, oh, what is,
Yeah.
so they consider it one of like maybe the first pieces of digital media
Yeah,
art,
okay.
'cause he was
Okay.
using the computer to program something.
Yeah.
Not.
No, absolutely. I mean, if you don't have a personal computer, then you have to share a terminal.
Okay.
And if you have to share a terminal, it had. RS Senior on the chat is saying it had to be in a closet because of the noise. Absolutely, it's like, you had to close the door, otherwise people down the corridor are like, they're trying to teach a class. So and but yeah, also that it's like hard copy is really interesting to me because.
Oh yeah, I was looking at your Etsy shop because these are beautiful. And the printouts are me and my best friend, like we did like a ton of ASCII art on HTML web pages, and we have CSS with different layers of ASCII art going behind and back and forth, and we've done a bunch of like artwork where he's printed ASCII art large scale and stuff. So.
Yeah, I mean, to me it's really interesting, like the medium determines what you're going to do with it, right? And so if you say, like, how can I play with the limitations of the medium, Well,
looking at this got me
yeah.
excited for the first time about like short programs, like
Okay.
because I always
that's
heard
cool.
of, like the 1K
Yeah,
program, like,
yeah.
You know what I mean? And I was like, oh,
Yeah.
1K is 10 feet. Like that's a real
1K
good
is
reason to limit your code.
One,
Or-
let's see, 10 bytes per inch, 100 bytes for 10 inches. Yeah, a K is like 8 feet or something, yeah.
So I was
Yeah.
like, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I would write like
Yeah.
try to write just the shortest
Yeah.
Python program.
But
I
also,
can,
so the first of the like PC era stuff was like the Altair 8080 and that kind of thing, where they were a box computer that had no peripherals at all, no display, no anything. And so the computer would be like the size of that box, maybe twice as big. And you'd build it from a kit, or you'd buy one for a couple of $1,000s. And then you'd quite often find people buy these second-hand and use them as terminals to those things. But when you start with like a computer that's got nothing, then it doesn't have a ROM with an operating system, or it doesn't have storage with an operating system. And the same with the PDPs. You would have to actually boot it up from paper tape. So you'd have to have your 2-foot like loader, and you'd probably punch it on Mylar so that it's indestructible.
Yeah.
And then the very first thing you do is like punch the front panel to get to the right state, then put in your loader and hit run, and then it'll load and run the bootstrap that gets you to the operating system.
That's so cool.
And BASIC was shipped on paper tape. When Microsoft, that was their first product, was paper tape.
Oh, wow.
They had a 4K BASIC for these Altair machines, and it was 4K, so it was like 20 feet of tape.
Yeah.
And yeah, they'd sell it in a roll. On the subject of pen plotters, personal telco / composite flattened / whitened 300 dpi.jpg. Oh, the ASCII coding chart printed on a plotter. That's kind of cool. That's nice.
And this is thermal paper, right?
This is not thermal paper. It's regular paper. This paper comes from Staples.
Okay.
You can actually still buy it. Now I have some old stock paper, which
I've got.
grab the open roll of that.
I think I have weird rolls of this.
Yeah, so it fades around the edges quite nicely. Which let's compare that.
Yeah.
It's like it's slightly browned around the edges, which I think is. So when I'm doing stuff to sell, I'm going to print it on this paper. But the paper's kind of crappy. It's like it tears easy.
Yeah.
It's it would fall apart.
Do you have to, if you want like old stuff, you just have to find it?
You just have to find it on eBay. Yeah. And I got like a half a dozen rolls with the machine. And punch tape. This is old stock paper. And then let me show you the rest of the punch tape stock. These are kinda cool, actually. Can you reach them? I've got wires in the way.
Yeah.
Up on top of the box, those. Take the top two. This one and the next one. So yeah, this one here is dark. This is dark fanfold. Let me put it into the thing. Dark fanfold paper. And then this other one is blue Mylar. So it's yeah, you can't tear it. You can snip it, and it will punch, but it'll wear the punch out quite a lot. But for things like if you wanted that loader tape, you'd want to punch it on Mylar. I think for my art projects, I want to do punched yellow on dark card, like this, because then you can see it nicely. And then also I want to do punched, let's punch a little bit of this. Punched dark blue on white, right, on a white card. And I think I want to do like gift cards and that kind of stuff. Let's try feed the punch. Bit more. Come on, I can't see the tape because it's too dark. Oh, if I turn it on, it might help. Yay, there we are. Yeah. That's right, on any dark surface. And so there's the dark tape on white, which I think is really kind of cool. Yeah. This is, I don't know how to interrupt this, so I may have to just like kill it from a distance. So yeah, I'm gonna do.
Really, like it's mediated. I'm like, you probably don't want to type help
Yeah.
too often if you're doing something like this.
Yeah. Well, so I did this session the other day, and I got a Python traceback, and they're pretty noisy. But this one went for like 6 feet. It's just like, it's never going to stop. So it's funny, you get into a kind of different rhythm, but like, it is worth printing the whole of the help file and then snipping it out and pasting it up somewhere on a notice board so that I can refer to it.
Yeah.
So it's like, I'm not going to lose
The
anything
paper
by...
copy.
Yeah, it's a hard copy. Yeah. You have to do things slow because the machine's kind of slow. But the machine that it's connected to is like a modern supercomputer. So the upside is that you only have to do it once because you can refer to the paper. Absolutely. Exactly. Yeah. Keep the printouts. Yeah. And then, yeah, so I'm going to try to do a bunch of ASCII art. I've done these kind of full-size album cover things. And I've started doing emoji, and they're better at small size. So I'm going to go look for some frames that are like 6-inch, 7-inch frames, and do an emoji series of like hard copy emoji. Did you see those on the printout? Yeah, grab the roll that's topmost. Yeah. And unroll it. And you'll probably find emoji on there. If that's there, it is. Yeah.
That is so cool.
So yeah, the emoji are really cool, and I think framed little 6-inch emojis are going to be
Oh my god.
are going to be a thing.
These are amazing.
Because there's so many of them, right? And you can tell little stories by them, and they don't have to be expensive. And yeah.
Wow. Is this online right now?
Is
Or
this?
Do you have pictures of the?
I don't have pictures of them all. I took a couple snaps of like the cat and stuff.
My best friend is in Miami, and he's funny. He's like more like he went to an art high school, and he's like a very classically trained artist. But he's the one who like introduced me to HTML and stuff.
Yeah.
But he would be like,
Yeah.
loving those.
Yeah. No, I think emoji has a future, and that thing that like. It's a
Well, like
late
translating ASCII.
60s ASCII only thing, and you're going to do emoji on it.
Yeah.
Great.
Makes you think about all the characters.
Yeah, yeah. It pushes my buttons there, definitely. So, what do you think? I don't think I'm going to get anything more productive done.
No, it's bothering you.
No,
Sorry.
no.
This is like the coolest.
I wanted to try the CDC, and I failed the first time and then succeeded after I put expect on it. I wanted to figure out what is wrong with LS, because if you look back at that listing here, right, the LS is all over the place. And I think I've got enough to debug it by looking at, like, what's the binary of it, and what is throwing in an extra character.
Okay.
Right.
So would you read it back?
No, I'll just sit there with a notepad, and I'll take this home and like sit there with a piece of paper and like see, okay, where is it throwing in these extra returns? Because then maybe I'll figure out, I mean, there might be, the thing I suspect is there might be an unprintable character that I don't know about, that something in STTY or something is putting into the stream that's making it behave weird. And so, I don't know, I'm going to debug it. But debugging is slow. So anyway, I think that's the end of my stream. I've been on for like
I could sit and listen.
3/4 of an hour or something. So I'm going to call it a day. Thanks for everybody tuning in. Good to see RS Senior again. And catch you next time.